Welcome back to Behind the Bower. I'm your host, Susan Martin, Executive Director of Bower Center for the Arts. On our podcast, we offer inspiring conversations, a fresh look at arts in our community, and provide spotlights on artists, performers, collaborative partners, educators, and organizations. We want to celebrate the universal expression of human experiences through arts, culture, and our community. And our topic today is performing arts. We feel that's an important role. It plays an important role in education, in our community, and how our youth can get involved. We want to talk a little bit about that today as well. Speaking of performing arts, for those of you that were not aware, Bower did host our third annual Murder Mystery event this past weekend, where more than 60 guests came and they stepped into characters to solve a murder, and it was amazing. If you are interested in learning more about that, we offer that every year. There are wonderful photos and even some video on our Facebook page. So we were really excited to have so many guests come and have such a good time. The theme was Murder at the Gin Joint, and it was a Roaring '20s theme. And just about everyone showed up in costume and really, really got into character. So it was really fun to watch an evening with adults just having a good time and really, really enjoying taking that opportunity to kind of come out of their comfort zone and play a character. So we look forward to hosting another one of those. My guest today is Dana Tickle, and she specializes in performing arts and will be leading our upcoming youth theater program called Let's Get This Show on the Road, which is going to begin on Tuesday, March 5th. And it's a program for youth that will run weekly from 5 to 6:30 p.m. Good morning, Dana.
Good morning.
Welcome to our show. We're going to start off with you giving us, telling us a little bit about yourself. Let our listeners, let them get an opportunity to get to know you.
Well, it's really hard to say when drama started for me, when theater started for me. All I know is that when I was 3 and I was taking ballet, everybody else did their little turn and curtsied to the audience and ran off. Well, when they laughed at me with my red bun on top of my head, I peeked around the curtain and kept running out until they seriously had to use the shepherd's crook and remove me. When I was 8, I was lucky enough to get to perform on Mill Mountain while the theater was still on Mill Mountain.
Mm-hmm.
It was in 1974. I got to be in Gypsy. I was 8. So my mother didn't think that I should be seeing what the rest of the show was about. But on the opening night, a man told me, if any of your balloons pop, I was the balloon girl, then they have to close the show. And so off stage, the director popped a balloon, and I stood there on stage spinning my skirt around trying to find the pop balloon.
Oh, no.
Yeah. He ended up being my drama teacher and my role model for the rest of my life. I mean, he was just amazing. But anyway, so theater's always been important to me. And my father said, I'll pay for any degree except for a degree in theater.
Oh, no.
And I said, okay, let's see how many student jobs I can have. So I mean, they did pay for my education. He just kept hoping I was going to change it to something else. But I was very lucky to be very involved in theater at Showtimers and at Mill Mountain Theater with the Southwest Virginia Opera Society. I premiered in a solo part when I was 14, which was kind of cool. Met wonderful people and went ahead and majored in theater in college and just tried to keep that on the down low and hope my dad didn't realize that's what I was doing. And I wanted to run a children's theater, a traveling children's theater.
Mm-hmm.
And they told me the best way to do that was to be endorsed to teach. And I went on to JMU, got my master's in early childhood ed, ended up teaching kindergarten and teaching gifted ed and doing the children's choir and all those things. And then started doing children's summer programs when I was in Culpeper. And I've looked for every opportunity to work with children in theater since then.
Right, right.
Um,
Go
sorry.
ahead. Yeah.
Sorry. Because I believe that theater is such a great way to problem solve. Not
Mhm.
only does it teach people to be to have confidence, but it also helps the super shy kids to be able to deal with some of their fears. If they're playing a character, then it's not as scary.
Right, right.
So
So it may be that their personality is shy, but if they're in that character role, they feel more confident to come out of that shell because it's not themselves.
that's right. I'm an
Yes.
incredible introvert. I would choose to hang out alone with a cup of coffee and a book. Probably I wouldn't be the one that would be going out and doing all the crazy stuff, but I will play any kind of part and do any kind of thing in the part, because then that's something I can try for a while and then say, yeah, that's still not me, but
Right.
I got a chance to just kind of let loose for a little bit.
Right, right. Yes, and it's interesting that you brought that up because I was reviewing some things before the podcast, and I think it's important that it's important that every, especially youth in their formative years, would have the opportunity, I think, to participate in some way, shape, or form. In some form of performing arts. Because, like you said, it also helps them to explore their emotions. It can help them expand their imagination. I think we all know that children, when they're young and growing up, when they're playing, they're even exploring and performing in some way, shape, or
Mhm.
form when they're playing with their toys and
Oh,
they're
yes.
and growing their imagination. And I think that it also, as you mentioned, the confidence and problem solving, but it also can help them to build and encourage teamwork, collaboration, sometimes even and build leadership because they may
Absolutely.
take a leadership role when they're doing something like that. What are some techniques that you might use to assist with youth in building those skills or growing out of that shyness?
All right. Well, I often have them divide up into groups, and I'd like to claim it's always arbitrary, but I usually put a couple of people who already have those skills with someone who doesn't have the skills, but make the person who's less sure about the skills uh, be the leader. And so they can offer suggestions, but they can't take the leadership, and it helps them uh, become leaders. I took a class at a workshop one time in social awareness drama, and I would say that theater kids often are the very most open-minded kids, because every show should be a somewhat of a vehicle for social awareness. I did Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat one time, and we used it. People brought coats, and we helped others.
Mhm.
I also have I did Dracula and got people to come out and give blood, and it reminds them how you could connect it into the real world. I've done training with kids where I took a group of middle school or high school kids and put them with a group of people who were in an assisted living facility, and they told stories. Right
Mhm.
after 9/11, the people who were in the assisted living facility were talking about the Kennedy assassination, talking about Pearl Harbor, talking about those things. My kids were talking about how 9/11 was the most frightening thing, and together they wrote a show.
That's
So it was
awesome.
really cool.
That's very awesome. That's very awesome. So you recently took some students on an amazing trip. Tell our listeners a little bit about what that involved and how that trip went.
All right. It was definitely not my trip. It was my church, Goodview Baptist, has a missionary who works with the navigators in Tokyo. And so we went to try to help them out. And we decided that to teach English, we would use theater,
Mm-hmm.
and we used different plays, and then we used parables. And so there were college students, but we had students who went with us who were as young as 9 years old. And so it was very interesting that when there's a lot of communication that occurs that's totally nonverbal.
Mhm.
And we found that sometimes it was the younger kids who could get it going
Right.
because they would just innocently say, well, what would this mean here in Japan? Because it is a very different culture than here. And one of the parables was the Good Samaritan,
Mm-hmm.
and talking about the people who had, just walked by, and our missionary said, well, so the wise man, would he have been, who would he have been? Would he have been like a priest? Would he have been a monk? No, he would have been a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
That's what. And then so we put together that parable, and even though we were using different not different values, but different cornerstones for everything, it here was half of the people were Japanese, half of them were American. We communicated beautifully, and we were able to get out the idea of the story and have them use some English words.
Mm-hmm.
And we're hoping that they're going to come back here and join us one summer. And, I would love if they do that. I'd love them to come over to the Bowers Center.
Absolutely.
And it would just be really cool.
Yes. Yeah, that would be great. And how long did you all spend over in Japan?
We were there for about 16 days.
Wow. That's-
Yes,
Yeah.
it was really cool. And I had an opportunity a few years back to take some kids to the High School International Theater Festival at the Fringe Festival in Edinburgh, Scotland.
Mhm.
And, and they said, well, what kind of performance space do you need? And I said, well, we're doing Godspell. It can be an alley. It doesn't matter. And so it was an alley.
Yes.
And it was really cool just to see art and theater and music occurring all over the city.
Right. Yeah. So, with us and working at providing performing arts opportunities for youth at the Bauer Center, I know you've done some actual plays, but
Yes.
also we've done some improv. Tell our
Yes.
listeners a little bit about the difference between if you're actually performing a play or a production versus doing improv.
Okay. When you are performing a play, everyone has a certain role they're going to portray, and you learn the lines that go with that, and you have blocking so that it keeps it safe and it keeps it the same, and people will get basically the same story every time.
Mhm.
However, if you do improv, you could do the same improv 10 times and it would be 10 different stories. And last spring, with a very small class, we put together an evening of improv. We pulled people out of the audience. And, we did one that the kids wanted to do, tell me why you're in detention. So we were pulling up their parents to explain why they were in detention. And we did one that was called Beans, where it's the same script every time. What you cooking? Beans. Are they good? Yes. Can I have some? Yes. And the person dies who eats the beans.
Oh, no.
It's the same every time. But the first time they just do it like themselves. And the second time you say, I'd like you to do this like you're ballerinas, or I'd like you to do this like your characters from Sesame Street. So it changes every time.
Right.
So it's the kids had a lot of fun with it, and they did not know what the prompts were going to be.
Right.
They chose the 5 improvs they were the most comfortable with, and then everybody came in and performed, and we even had the audience shout out and well, have them do it like they're senior citizens, or have them do it like and we put the audience in with it. It's, I mean, Whose Line Is It Anyway has been successful on TV for years, and it's the same sort of idea, and it's so much fun. I mean, I think it would be great even to do a class with adults in it.
Absolutely.
Because it's just so fun.
That really gets you out of your comfort zone, because you just have to kind of think on your feet and go with it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So we mentioned opening up that our next youth performing arts programming, Let's Get This Show on the Road, is going to be starting on Tuesday, March 5th. What can our youth and their families expect about this theater program?
All right. For the first thing, The Magician's Nephew was written by C.S. Lewis, the same man that wrote The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, or Mere Christianity. So it has the triumph of good over evil, but it also has a little reference to Pandora's box of secrets. There is a magician who's a good man, and he goes around improving things, but he tells his nephew, don't touch that box. Well, his nephew touches the box, and what he does is if you've seen The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, is he releases the evil back into the world, the evil queen, and he has to travel to find the queen and get her contained again. So you see the triumph of good over evil. Aslan comes back and helps them, and helps to keep them safe. And there are children who help the magician's nephew to try to contain the evil again. And he says, I don't know why I had to look at the box, but they tell him that if you believe enough, good can always triumph over evil. And with all the things going on right now in our world, the idea of being able to help good trump evil is such a wonderful thing. And I think we need to see that message right now.
I totally agree. What ages are you looking for this program?
We could have anywhere from 7-year-olds all the way up to, if we had college students who wanted to do it, it would be great for everyone.
Right.
But it's not just good for people who want to perform. We also want it to, in a very compressed schedule, to have some sort of set.
Right.
And we want to have some sort of costume. So my kids, and I know they're out there because I've met them during the summer, who love to sew.
Right.
It would be great for them to take things we found at Goodwill and refashion them.
Right.
Even if we have to duct tape them together, which does work, and refashion them into something that looks right. And the kids who love to build things to create an indication of the world that they're going to be in. And it's great because, it's kind of a fantasy world.
Right.
So things can be just like in Alice in Wonderland. They can be totally the wrong scale.
Right.
A chair can be so big that you have to crawl into it with the stool, or it can be so small that you have to bend almost to the floor.
Right.
So I want to tap their creativity with it also.
I think that's wonderful. And we want to encourage families to if their youth have any interest, if they're not performers, and again, some people are, that's just not the direction, but they want to be creative in some way and be involved in this performance, we want them to feel comfortable and confident to participate.
Absolutely.
And so the set design, the costuming, we can do lighting. I mean, any area that they're interested in, we'd love to have the youth in this community come out and participate.
Well, that's right.
Is there a certain number of students needed to perform the play? Is there a certain number of?
It would be really good to have 8 to 10 to perform the play.
Mm-hmm.
Some things could be doubled if they needed to. They're at least 6 to 8.
Right.
And one interesting thing is there is a little girl who is coming to join us. She hasn't been signed up yet, but she will bring a very interesting touch to this because she's actually a war orphan from Israel.
Mm-hmm.
My friend who's a medical missionary adopted her, and he wants her to be involved in performing arts and get to know new children.
Right.
So she will come too. So she'll have whole different ideas about things.
Right. It's a great opportunity for the kids to come together and meet new friends and build new relationships. It's my favorite part of any of our classes and the previous performing arts programs that you've led for us is watching the kids and how when they first come in, they can be a little standoffish or afraid to talk to each other. And then it seems like by day 2, 3, they are like best friends. They're exchanging phone numbers. They're planning play dates outside of the center. It's just wonderful to watch how that grows as well. Beyond what they're receiving through their opportunities at Bauer Center for the Arts.
That's right.
Yes.
And a couple of summers ago, we did more of a technical theater one, and we made huge 3D dragons and paraded them all through the through the Bauer Center, and that was a lot of fun watching all the kids. I said, well, this is what an Eastern dragon is like. This is what a Western dragon is like. Choose which one you'd prefer to be involved with. And they divided out, and they were seriously just working all over the place, and helping one another out. And you didn't hear anybody say, no, that's wrong.
Right.
People would say, oh, you're having trouble putting that together. You might try.
Right.
I mean, it's just, that's the thing I love about the Bauer Center is that these kids support what one another's doing. And if somebody is struggling, I decided to teach them to embroider last year, and they were doing, why can't I remember the form? It was one of the Japanese forms of writing. And so they had the letters, but trying to figure out how to make some of the curves.
Right.
And some of the kids, it just made sense to them immediately. And they'd say, oh, I can show you how to do that one. So then they actually had their hands on one another's projects. And so a little bit of other children carried home in their projects.
Yes, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So definitely building those connections and growing our community is what's extremely important to us at Bauer Center for the Arts and through these programs.
Yes.
Dana, I want to thank you for joining us today. It's been wonderful talking with you. I do want to remind our guests, we did just recently open our 10th annual Curry Bauer exhibition. Please come out. We have 50 artists represented from across the country with over 140 works of art. We also added a youth division, so there are 5 youth artists from across our community with 10 works of art on display as well. Tonight, we're really excited because we are having our first Bauer After Hours, which is a paint night featuring an evening of painting, wine, and Actually, the guests are going to be creating their own creative foods along with their painting. So we're really excited about that. We do have a full group for that. So if you're interested in doing something in the future with us, check out the Bauer After Hours. We're going to be offering those on a regular basis. And they're going to range from, we're going to do some improv, we're going to do some trivia nights, paint nights. We want to just do something fun to get adults into the Bauer Center after hours and enjoying opportunities. And then our next podcast next week, we are going to have the members of the band Barefoot Modern joining us. Our concert with them is coming up on March 2nd, and they are a pop alternative indie rock band. So we're really excited. We're bringing them in from North Carolina, and this young group has their own original music, but they also cover bands such as the Beatles, Queen, Led Zeppelin, a lot of that good old rock that I'm really a fan of. So we're really excited about having them on next week. So check out all of our upcoming classes, workshops, performance schedule. Everything you need to know is at bowercenter.org. And we appreciate you listening to us, and we look forward to speaking with you next week. Thanks so much.